No vocal.
Yeah, Coach, what do you feel like is the biggest point of emphasis over, the last stretch of games? I know this has obviously been a tough season, but what are you going to maybe focus on to have the best finish you guys possibly can?
It's really continuing to find consistency, individually and collectively, and that's going to come from us continuing to be hyper focused on each individual. So where are the places where we can get each player the ball where they're most comfortable? So that's going to be, which actions we run for them when they're in the game, which lineup combinations. We really need to shore up some things defensively, but it was the turnovers again, and I think part of that comes from what I'm talking about. It comes from people, being in positions and being indecisive and not playing with confidence. I think that is probably the biggest thing contributing to those turnovers. I don't see people, trying to make crazy passes or, once in a while we get a player dribbling into 2 or 3 people when they shouldn't. And those are obviously addressed continually, but really it's putting together 4 quarters of basketball on both ends of the court. We've only done that a couple of times this year. And the times that we've done it, we've looked pretty darn good, all things considered. So it's going to be what it's been about from the very beginning. It's got to be about us.
Jeff Magliochetti.
Hey, Coach. Jasmine Jones reached double figures for the 6th time tonight, and she was on the floor for the start of the 3rd quarter, as well as the 1st quarter when you made that sub early in the game, 25 seconds in. What have you seen from her over these past 2 games, and where has she improved most in her game over these past 2 weeks?
I think Jazz has been like a steady spark for us off of the bench, and there are some specific things with each of the players that I'm talking about that if they don't do them, then they get pulled really quickly. Layshia passed up on an open 3. That's why she's gotten pulled right away in the past 2 games. And then the second half, Jazz started because Layshia needed to get retaped. And then we just ran with it because, Jazz has been doing some good things. The turnovers, because again, she's trying to orchestrate, trying to get us into things, and sometimes she'll struggle with that a little bit, but in all, I mean 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 11 points, 2 steals. I mean she's been so solid and so steady, and I think it's really just a matter of her continuing to get these reps and the experience necessary, and that's the case with our whole team.
Erica Ayala.
Hey, Coach. We're going to be featuring Layshia for an upcoming story for The Athletic, so some of these might be things you've addressed before, but I'd love to ask you a little bit about, being able to talk with Layshia about balancing what her role is for this team, which seems new to her throughout her WNBA career, and also some of the other leadership roles that she has throughout the league. Is that ever something that you all talk about with her?
Yeah, I've talked about it with her individually, and I know that at different points throughout the season, different people have brought that up. She definitely carries a lot. And her resilience has been impressive. I know that part of it, we've had to navigate how hard I push her because I know of those things, because I know how many things she's going through, and I think I probably didn't push her quite hard enough to start. And so that's been something that we've really been working on, because at the end, this is a sanctuary for her. Basketball is a sanctuary for her. And even though that you have to keep those things in context, you have to keep it in mind how much she's carrying. At the end of the day, if I'm not pushing her to be her best out here, it's adding burden, not taking any off. So that's been an adjustment. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but I think it's been better for her since I've pushed her a little harder and demanded some more from her basketball wise, and she's responded. She's responded.
Jackie Powell.
Hey, Walt. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the reason why you think that you've got a bunch of rookies that maybe look more confident on defense rather than offense, and why you think that's the case. And to follow up, Kylie's getting a little more confident on offense. She's taking more shots, but when those shots in the paints aren't falling, what do you tell her on a night like tonight?
Well, in regards to Kylie, yeah, she's been working hard, a lot of film and a lot of one-on-one workouts. She actually didn't do the things we've been working on tonight in the post. She kind of regressed a little bit and got sped up, and you know, you guys have probably heard me say this a lot, but the hardest thing in the post is slowing down. Generally, younger players struggle with that. You know, they're sped up. They don't know where the double is going to come from. They have trouble crab dribbling without somebody tipping it. You know, there's just little nuances from playing against bigger, more athletic, smarter defenders, and you know, some good team concepts that take away, you know, easy post-up looks for somebody. I thought that she got that really good look going middle, and then she faded away on the next one. But you know, that stuff's neither here nor there. I mean, her getting the attempts and the experience, and us getting to go back to the drawing board and see if she can make those adjustments going into the next game, and then the next game, and the next practice. It's invaluable, you know, and it's something that, you know, to Michelle's question earlier, it's something that I think everybody, it's hard from the outside to keep it in mind, but the reps that we're able to get these players are reps that a lot of times they don't get until their second or third year. And so the way that it speeds the learning curve of the younger players and the leadership curve of the older players, you know, getting to play these minutes in crunch time, having to find a way to lead a team that's young and inexperienced. I mean, all this stuff is so valuable. And so, you know, if I sit down and I look at the record and I get caught up in that, it's, you know, endlessly frustrating, right? If I'm short-sighted in that way. When I zoom out and I realize what the ways in which this team and our staff and our organization gets a benefit from learning how to play through what will hopefully be the toughest season, you know, that any of us have to go through. I think that the benefits are numerous. And so that perspective is really, really important. You know, when we finish these games and we go into the staff locker room and talk through things, you know, even during the game, even in the fourth quarter, it's looking over at the assistants and saying, hey, what do we need to work on? What's something we want to get a look at? If we don't feel like we're within striking distance or something like that in the last 3 minutes and we're down by 22, you know, what are a couple sets or what are some things defensively that we really need to work on that we can get them some reps at, some game reps at? That's our focus. You know, that's our focus is the long term. Of course we want to win. Of course we go in there every day and talk about how close they are at so many points, you know, and we have these stretches where things just kind of fall apart on us on both ends. It's mainly turnovers. They scored 33 points off of our turnovers tonight. And that's something that just has to be shored up. But turnovers are a funny thing. They're tough. It's not like you can write on the board, don't turn the ball over tonight. It's like free throws, you know, make free throws. It's like those things don't really work. You have to keep going back to the drawing board and addressing the reasons the turnovers are happening. And that's something we're trying to do every day.
Thanks, Coach. Next, we're going to have Layshia Clarendon.
Hi, Layshia. Thank you for joining us. Could you say, how impressed have you been recently with the recent performances of Kia Nurse and Jasmine Jones, both of whom have taken on an increased role in shooting and scoring on this team?
Really impressed. We need it badly. We need those points. We need to know kind of who some of our go-to scorers can be on the court. So we know what Nurse is capable of. We've seen her be an all-star last year. So it's just been a little unfortunate with her ankle injury, how inconsistent she was early in the season. So it's really good. I'm really happy to see her getting out there, and just I'm learning what plays, what kind of staggers or single pin downs that she likes, and then The combo guard Jazz is, if she can play the 1 or the 2, is awesome. She's just a fireball. Like, she comes in and she's fearless. She can read pick and roll, and she can really get out and play in transition. And so knowing you kind of are going to have that consistency from her off the bench the last couple games has been really good for us.
Erica Ayala.
Hey, Layshia, I wanted to ask you about a tweet from Courtney Williams that you responded to. I think she was giving a little love to the point guards and just kind of talking about, the ones and that difficult role. We've talked to you before about the role that you have on this team, it being different than like a Connecticut or Atlanta, et cetera. But particularly looking at that floor general role, what have been the greatest moments of growth for you being with this New York Liberty team in particular?
Ooh, just leading in general. It's hard because we have so many young people. So you can't stop practice enough in the game enough because we have to keep playing. So that, I think, is one of the hardest parts for me, is like, I just want to stop and teach and teach and teach and stop and tell people things and show them things, but we don't have that luxury. Unfortunately, we're practicing like on TV every night in our games, and that's kind of, you see the different point differentials in some of these losses. And I think the good part has been just challenging me in my leadership, stretching me and how I've had to lead this season in different ways, of like when it's being vocal, when it's stopping practice and teaching more, even when it's like our full practice and I'm stopping and being like, well, hold on, I have something, and showing people. That's been the biggest ones. And then for personal growth, it's been, continuing to, that's why I got pulled out of the game today, because I didn't shoot the open 3, like continuing to take my shots when I'm open, so I become more of a scoring threat from the 3-point line.
Jackie Powell.
Hey, Layshia, I wanted to ask you, from your perspective, what you think a reason is for the fact that a bunch of the young rookie players, like a Nay Odom or a Jocelyn Willoughby, seem a little bit more confident on defense rather than offense. Why do you think that's the case?
Oh, that's a good question. I know Jocelyn is a defensive-minded player, and she's super physical. And May Odom has the goal of being a defensive player of the year, one of her years in the league. So they both are very defense-first players. That's just their personalities. Like, they like to get stops. They like that end of the floor. And they both, I think, struggle a little bit with confidence on the offensive end and finding where they fit in generally and in this new system. And they both don't naturally shoot the 3 well. They're slashers, cutters, get to the rim. And so in a drive and kick kind of offense, when they're end up getting a lot of open 3s, but kind of have that indecision on taking them, I think it's just a kind of a personal preference that they like the defensive end better, and they're just kind of figuring out as a rookie in a new system.
Great. Thanks, Layshia. Next, we'll have Kia Nurse. Michelle Vopel.
Yeah, Kia, Walt was talking about just the need for everybody sort of to build up their confidence, that sometimes that's an issue he sees out there. But it's hard to do that when you're not winning games. How do you try to do that to try to feel more confident, even though you're struggling in the win column? I mean, I know that's a tough question to ask, but is there a way to try to build up the confidence of this team, regardless of results?
Yeah, it's interesting because essentially, if you really look at what confidence is, you always have it. It's just the fact that doubt or concern, or maybe I shouldn't take this shot, maybe this isn't the right shot for you, kind of like comes into your mind and clouds that, when essentially the confidence is there. It's just behind some doubt, and then you just got to move it out of the way a little bit. You got to be able to let it go. And a lot of times, I mean, it can't come from wins and losses. It has to come from the ability to know in yourself and know in your mind and know in your heart that you put the work into the gym. And with this group, we do have a lot of time in the gym to get some extra shots up. We find ways to do it, and we have a lot of people who want to go in. I mean, it's optional, but you'll see a ton of us in there. And that's where you're really going to find your confidence again. You're going to find your rhythm, is knowing that you can do it there. And then when you get in the game, same footwork, it's the same thing. It's a basketball and it's a rim, being able to really put that down. So it's really having to focus on what you do well and take a chance, take a risk on it, whether it be that's shooting the open shot that you get that maybe you don't typically shoot or it hasn't been going down, to find a way to be a little bit more confident in yourself regardless of the wins and losses.
Jackie Powell.
Hey, Kia, I wanted to expand upon that a little bit. Something I'm noticing is the fact that you have a bunch of the young rookies that seem to be a little more confident on defense rather than offense. Why do you think that is? And also, I just wanted to get your thoughts on how you thought Nay Odom was on DeWanna Bonner, just shutting her down in that first half.
Well, I think obviously defense is pretty easy in the sense that it's really just effort a lot of the time, right? Just being able to make plays. Yeah, there's a little bit of IQ to it, and the best defenders can kind of understand, but it's tendencies, knowing that, and then really just making multiple efforts and putting that in. So that's a place that you can easily gain confidence if you're a young player in this league and you're trying to figure it out. And I think offensively, the system is different, right? We're all new to each other. We haven't had a whole lot of time to get in the practice gym and really understand people's tendencies, where they're best suited, where they find the easiest shots, or they find the most confident shots. So that's tough when you have a new system, you have a new coaching staff, you're coming into a brand new team, and you're coming into a new league where you're playing against the best players in the world night in and night out, and that's a transition. So I think we're coming along. I love that they play fearlessly, that they don't back down from anybody. And I think you saw that a lot in Nay tonight and night after night. What she did starting with our game against Vegas. She had to guard Angel McCautry. In the second half in Chicago, she came in and she guarded Quigley. And she kind of slows down pretty much everybody we put her on. It's her length, it's her athleticism, it's her effort on defense. And she did a great job with DeWanna tonight again. And I think that's just her ability to really put a length on people and use her effort to really get her athleticism going.
Erica Ayala.
Hey, Kia, I saw that Alexa Philippou, who covers UConn, she put out an article kind of with a roundup of, I guess it's about 15 alumna that are in the Wubble this year that come from UConn. I wanted to ask you if you ever have occasion to talk with some of the UConn players throughout the season, just to kind of get a sense of, how to navigate your own personal career, and then maybe also offering guidance to, some of the rookies that have come through the league as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because obviously we pass each other in the lobby, whether we're going to get tested or if we're living in the same kind of area, if you're in the lodge area versus the villas. I'm still in contact, obviously, with Gabby and Fisa and Lou, Megan, because I've played with her. So people that I've been around, Clean Mosqueda Lewis as well, Kia Stokes, Brianna Stewart, those people I've kind of had a little bit more contact with. But, you run into, Diana and Sue in the lobby, and it's always a hello and how are you doing? For me, I'm always in the lodge, which is like the farthest part of the campus. And I'm a pretty big homebody, so I haven't spent a whole lot of time with other people. But I know if I needed to and I wanted to sit down and have a conversation, I'm sure there's not a lot of UConn alums who would say no. And that's pretty exciting and pretty fortunate to have that in our family from the Huskies.
Great. Thanks, Kia. Thank you all. We'll be sending post-game notes and the link shortly.